Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is the Weather, Storms, and Tornadoes mod for Minecraft. As you can see here, this mod can offer quite a lot of destruction. It is highly configurable though, so you don't have to have bad things like this happen. As well as you have the option of, well, creating things that can stop this from happening, hopefully clearing it away and making things a little bit more peaceful. For instance, let's get one of these here, plop that down, and that should help. Well, it's not going to help save the animals. Oh dear. But it should clear the weather up rather nicely at the very least. So this mod here, made by Corosus, will add a little bit of extra stuff to your world. Not just your average, really cool clouds in the sky, but you can also add a little something else. There are things like an anemometer. For instance, put this down, and if it is windy, things will it'll start spinning around. You can also make yourself a wind vane. Place it on top or next to it. I like to put it on top just because the decoration fits really nice. I believe that the model was actually made by Raspberry, and it kind of adds a little extra touch, for when, you've got your setup going. This will be spinning, this will turn with the wind, depending upon what direction it goes. Plus, it kind of gives you an idea of what the directions are. If you don't have something like, I have Journey Map in the top right corner there, telling me what direction stuff is, this will automatically tell you that way is north. Therefore, you don't need to use your F3 menus either in order to get there. Recipes for such simple things are weather items plus redstone and weather items plus redstone. And of course, a weather item is strictly just a crafting mechanic item, and it's made with iron, gold, and redstone. So it's just a little bit of an investment for some decoration as well as a possibility of some practical use. Now, there are other items you can make as well, like pocket sand. By taking a placeable sand layer around a weather item, you can make pocket sand, which placeable sand layers are just more sand around another weather item, and you get 64 of those. Now, a pocket sand will actually start depositing a little bit of sand around, and it'll also make like a little bit of a kind of a whoosh effect. So you can see it will start gathering sand in an area over time, sort of like how snow builds up, but it'll be like sand. There are sandstorms, there are snowstorms, there are tornadoes, cyclones, rain, wind, all sorts of stuff. And depending upon the biome that you're in, you might get snow or just rain or hail or sand. It all varies as you go along. It's a really cool mod, and it is very highly, as I said before, configurable. Don't forget that you can change these things. So if you don't like tornadoes, you can turn them off. Or you can craft something like a weather deflector, which is made with one of those weather items plus some iron and some redstone. You place it down, and any adverse weather effects should avoid a large area. So you don't need to worry about your base just getting demolished by a tornado. Now, by default, a tornado will not destroy heavier to break blocks. For example, I have over here this forest where a tornado came through. It wrecked the landscape. Actually, all it did was just peel the grass off the dirt blocks, pick up a bunch of leaves off the trees and move them. And it might also move some wood logs or a bit of wood planks off of, say, something in a village or your average wooden house. So it would affect those. It will also pick up entities. So you have to be very careful that, your favorite horse or whatever is not just like destroyed, picked up in the process. You're going to want to keep it in a solid house if you don't have one of these going on. Now, there are other things that can help you out with this. This, of course, is just, as you can see, there's a little bit of wind, and there's a little bit coming in, but it's not very informative. It just kind of gives you a general idea. So you can make something a little bit more interesting to help you out with this. And that's going to be the weather radar. The weather radar is made with more weather items, redstone, and a compass. If I take this, place it down on the ground. Actually, it's best if you have like a little 3x3 area set up for it. I'm actually going to put it down in the ground because it places this little display area above you. And if you look, there is a little kind of like a double line right in the middle here. That is the central position. That's you. And if you give it a few seconds, it will detect in a very large area, actually many, many chunks, the current weather systems in the area. Now, this may say that the wind is blowing in one direction. Doesn't mean that the weather systems are going to go that way. Just means that's the direction that the wind is blowing at your spot. If you look at these and you wait, you'll start seeing them slowly update over time. So it's sort of like a little weather map. This one is moving eastern. This one here seems to just kind of be sitting there. And if I look, I don't really see much. You'd think, all right, well, it's pretty close. It is somewhat close, actually, but if I go over this way, eventually I'll run into it. I've got a little bit of some precipitation on me right now where the snow is. Plus, there we go, I've got more of that rain and so on. So this is pretty much where it's at. It was a good distance away, several chunks as you can see. So it's not just going to give you like the immediate 5-block radius or something silly like that. And if I come back down here, you can see that there are more rain areas coming in. I can use commands, of course, to make certain effects, but there are other ways of bringing it in. For instance, I just created a snowstorm. There are also possibilities for sandstorms if you're in a sand biome or a desert biome, but it has to have certain requirements met. You can see that this is all moving in. There's currently like a thunderstorm effect going on there because I just created a snowstorm. So this is going to affect more or less this area up here. And I turned the configs on to allow snow to gather. The problem is that it can keep on gathering if it's not cleared away. So that's something that you're going to want to think about if you want to enable it. Otherwise, its default setting is off, so snow will not gather. Sand does in desert biomes, and it'll move it around and potentially pick that up because it's a lighter block, but you're not really 100% on that one. And yes, the placeable sand layers, by the way, if you craft these, which as I showed you before is just sand and weather item gets you 64 of them, you can place them, on top of each other and make your different gradients. So if you wanted to make like stairs or some kind of slant or something like that, you could do that. It's kind of a different way of doing it. But as I was saying, there are other things that can help you out with this mod. There is a tornado sensor and a weather siren. They are similar, but very different. For instance, let's put down a tornado sensor, and you'll see here that it's just a block. I can click it, nothing happens. If I put down a weather siren, I put this down, and depending on the weather that is in the area, it doesn't have to be connected to anything. It's just there. You can turn it off by putting a lever on it, and that would just shut it off so it doesn't make noise, but it will make noise by default. So if I have a weather system nearby that is of concern, for instance, like a tornado, let's go over here, and I'll actually spawn in a tornado. And then I'm going to just kind of escape that area. You'll hear that the alarm starts sounding, which is the weather siren letting you know that there is a tornado nearby, and it is just ripping up the landscape, which I have to admit is really entertaining to watch regardless. And yes, you can, as a player, get sucked up into that, and it's very difficult to get out of it, and you'll probably die from fall damage, but it's just really entertaining to watch. And as I said before, you can always shut off the alarm. But the other thing that will happen is that you notice now this tornado sensor in the top left says power 15. What that does is it will therefore light up any kind of like a light system or anything that you have that would be powered by redstone can be activated by that, therefore giving you another way of finding things out, that there is a tornado nearby. Oh boy, and it looks like it might be coming around this area. It's actually really, really close. So let me put down one of these weather deflectors, and that should eliminate this from getting too close to us. There we go. Once it gets within a certain block radius or chunk radius, it will negate all crazy weather like that. So you don't need to worry about the weather coming in to destroy your stuff anymore. And just in case you did not know the recipes already, the tornado sensor is just more iron and redstone around a weather item, and then the weather siren is more iron and redstone around a tornado sensor. It's very simple recipes, a little bit of investment for it, but if you've got this mod in here and you want everything to be running, it's really worth the investment in my mind to just kind of have those items. And it's really cool to have this weather map. I mean, you can really just place things down if you want, and you can see that it's actually less than one thickness of snow around. So by putting this down, everything will just kind of disappear. I can't actually place these on top there, but I could put other things like a grass block on top. It doesn't stop it from functioning. Everything is still there. It's just kind of like a hologram. But it's just fantastic that it's a little hologram weather map that you can have. And you can see here, I am now in the desert. and I have set the command to create a sandstorm, which can be randomly generated. It already has. I have had some weather effects come through here, and you can see that there is some sand gathering up over here. If you're in the area of the sandstorm long enough, you'll start gaining like this blindness effect where you can only see so far. And you'll get a lot of just random particles running around on your screen, so therefore it'll be very difficult to get through. You'll have a whole bunch of sand start building up on ledges and stuff like that over time. It's, as you can see here, it's catching on the front edges because of the direction that it's coming from. None of these bushes or anything actually hits you or hurts you. It just kind of flies around, and therefore you'll have another hazard to worry about because of the poor visibility that you'll have around here. And you can see that the sandstorm actually came across this area and started collecting over time. Now this is a bit later, up to a certain point, and kind of covered a bit of sand on the landscape. So if you're close to a desert biome, it's possible that a sandstorm could come out this far, though they are somewhat rare and you won't find them very often. And now I'm going to show you the last, but definitely not least, part of this mod, and that is the weather machine. Now this, of course, you can adjust in the configs, but it can also be a very trolly tool, depending upon how people use it. For instance, I put this down, and it is just a box. You can right-click it and start changing what happens in the area. I clicked on lightning, so therefore within probably about 10 seconds, 20 seconds, maybe sometimes a little bit longer if there is no weather in the area at all, it will actually slowly convert to a lightning storm, as you can see there. And those lightning strikes will not cause fire. It has been prevented from doing so, so there's no concerns about that. You can continue on. It'll get into high wind, which is actually pretty interesting there. And you can start seeing that the rain is really starting to get a bit more intense. You'll actually get several other effects, like a fog on occasion. You could also get all sorts of, well, hail could start falling from the sky. You'll start seeing these ice cubes coming down. And like I said before, depends on the biome that you're in. You can see some really cool and interesting effects. Depending upon what you also have set up, you may see the grass or things of that nature start kind of moving along with the weather. Of course, you can turn on a tornado. This is where it really gets trolly because, well, pretty much everything goes up into the sky. You could turn it into a stage 1 tropical cyclone instead, which is going to be a little bit different, but everything's still going to go up there. And then you can just turn it back into rain, and, well, the ring of death, happens. So it's very entertaining, but at the same time also very dangerous. And to make one of these is actually relatively cheap, just a diamond around some of the other items that we've already talked about in this mod. So there you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed this bit by bit on weather, storms, and tornadoes, a mod brought to you by Corosus. As the lightning strikes. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, be sure to share the mischief with others if you think they'll enjoy this content too. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.